Okay, thank you for coming. I don't have anything specific to talk about. We just thought it was a good idea, a good time to connect every trade deadline, whether we're super active or not very active, just get a little time here. So, quick review of the trade deadline. Very content with how it went. Like the way the team is playing. We've been extremely active and transactional the last 2 years. Wanted to give these guys a chance to settle in, gel, connect. Otherwise, floor's open. Happy to talk about whatever you all want to.
Did that mindset make it more difficult for someone to pry someone from you? And did you get offers that were somewhat attractive but just not good enough?
Yeah, I received lots of offers. I think it did make it somewhat more difficult to pry from us because we are happy with who we have and where we're at. So, of course, we always want to be opportunistic and, not just be thorough in this market, but have a great feel for what our options are and what's available. And, in any transaction, you're just evaluating whether this is a good move for you or not. And all the discussions we had this time around, we chose to pass on them.
Can you elaborate on, you say you're happy with where we're at. Where are you guys?
Individually, seeing a lot of positive things throughout our roster. I don't have a ton of time here, but very happy with the overall growth of our young guys, with the quality, sustainable play that our veterans have provided. Happy with some surprises we've gotten. Guys that were under the radar before the season, Tumani Kamara, Duopri, those kind of guys. And also happy with how all these individuals are connecting as a group. I think going into this season, we knew there was going to be a lot of ups and downs. We were going to play well in spurts, and we were going to play poorly in spurts, and I think we've seen that. But in totality, I like where we're headed, especially I would say the last 3 weeks, coming off of that tough road trip where we got beat pretty badly very often. I really like how our team responded since then. And, that's what we're pointing to is the positives. What are we capable of? What are the good moments? What can we build from? How can we get more consistent in that higher end level of play?
Joe, what are your goals for the rest of the season?
Keep getting better day by day. It was our approach going into it. Nothing's really changed. We have a lot of individual development and team development to go through. And, we have some really young, talented, capable guys that we're seeing good growth from. Just got to keep doing that. And at the same time, we've got to learn to play together. We've got to still get better defining and establishing our style of play.
How do you feel the season has gone for Scoot so far and his development?
Yeah, it's gone well. Shaky start early on, which was to be expected, for a 19-year-old coming in and running an offense. And I love how he's navigated that. And especially lately, I think we've seen some really explosive moments from him and games from him and series of games from him. And that's what we're building off of, get past the mistakes, show what you're capable of, and keep growing from that. Running an NBA team, from the point guard spot is hard, and I think Scoot's navigated that really well.
Joe, since December 3rd, 2021, do you feel like you've done a good job?
Yes, I really like where we're positioned. I like where we're headed. I like what we're capable of. I like our team. I like our staff. I like our organization. I think we're well on our way to good things in the future.
Going back to Scoot for a second, this might be more of a Chauncey question than a you question, but is the plan for him, at least going forward in the immediate future, for him to keep coming off the bench?
It's more of a Chauncey question. I think for Chauncey, it's a feel thing, and I trust his feel. He's going to look and see how the team's going, see who's available on a nightly basis. That kind of can change things. Maybe he starts in spurts. Maybe he closes more games. It depends on who's available. But I want to trust Chauncey's feel. I think he's doing a really good job of empowering him and developing him, yet at the same time protecting him, not putting him in situations that will make him overly vulnerable, even though we want him to experience those moments in order to get better. But generally speaking, I really like the way Chauncey's handled Scoot's development, the same as I really liked how he handled Shaden's development the year prior.
Joe, speaking of Chauncey, I think you said at the end of last season that he's kind of come in and changed quite a few things. I mean, can you give any specifics about what do you think Chauncey's changing in his 2.5 years here?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I think about it even in my own job. You learn so much in those first couple of years. The phrase "you don't know what you don't know" is overly used probably, but it's true. I think there's things that just surprise you that you weren't expecting or that you don't have time to address. Like there's so much like building like with your staff and the things that you're going through. You spend so much time on that, developing your staff and just getting all that sorted out, and then getting into the intricacies of the game or the intricacies of leadership. And I think you just learn, and sometimes you have to make a mistake to learn, and that's what I've learned in my job is I've learned more from my mistakes probably than the things that have gone well. But for Chauncey, I've seen so much growth in not just his leadership and how he's interacting with players and the way he communicates, but also in his decision making, his strategy, his schemes. Like we're seeing tremendous growth. I'm really happy with where we're at.
Joe, go back to Scoot. Joe, go back to Scoot. What's your evaluation of him playing with Simons right now, and how much more do you need to see to get a proper evaluation?
I think we need to see a lot more. I think they're still figuring each other out. They're both guys who are better on the ball than off of it, and I think they've got to learn to play with each other, and we expect that from all of our players. Like, learn how to play with other good players. Like, be a basketball player. And I think we've seen tremendous growth from Scoot in being both on and off the ball. Off the ball is one of the things that's been one of the most positive developments, I think, is he's getting really good out of a catch, whether he's just shooting the ball or whether he's attacking on that single side, making a play. So, and that's what I want to see right now is become a holistic player. We'll get into the intricacies and we'll maximize what they do best. But right now, just become a player.
Joe, leading up into the deadline, is it fair to say that the CBA, the implications of it, dictated a lot or how little action there was coming into this deadline?
I think teams definitely are adjusting accordingly. We're seeing perhaps some conservatives, teams being conservative, being unwilling to take on certain salary ranges or certain salary lengths. We're seeing teams covet draft picks more than we probably did in the previous, I would say, 5 years where, we saw a lot of picks being thrown around. So I think teams are getting a little more protective. I think the new CBA is still freezing the league to some extent where we're still just kind of looking around trying to figure out the exact implications of these new rules and learning on the fly as we go. So I think all of those to some extent will hinder movement.
How much, if any, has that affected how you guys are planning on not only right now, but kind of your runway for the next 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking like new CBA and the changes? Yeah. I mean, a lot of that, and it was heavy on our consciousness throughout the summer and all the deals we made. It's, how can you manage your cap effectively, and also what are you looking for as far as what are you valuing more, contracts or picks or both, or, some combination of all different things. And obviously we've done a little bit of each, and I think that's what we valued. Like, we definitely knew we had to restockpile our picks, which I feel like we've done a good job of. But at the same time, we wanted to add some players to this roster too, some guys who were on good contracts that were, very manageable for our cap that we could continue to add to this roster.
Joe, do you have any kind of rough timeline for how many more years you're kind of going to do this kind of early stage of rebuild before you start looking at maybe being more competitive for the playoffs? Do you have kind of a timeline on it?
Not yet. I know we want to continue to grow and continue to progress. We don't want to take any more steps back. And that was part of our approach at this trade deadline. Like, I would say we were looking more to acquire a guy than get off of a guy. But at the same time, I don't want to speed it up too much. I want to give these guys a chance to grow and develop and, not overly swing here in order to chase a playoff spot that's unrealistic or a playoff spot that's going to get us thumped right away. I want to make sure this is a quality build that is very sustainable.
So were you guys active in targeting some players, and were you more interested in acquiring players even for your players as opposed to picks? Because you have so many young players. I mean,
Yeah, it always depends on the deal. Like, if there's great value, we'll add picks. If it's great value, we'll add players, I would say. But generally speaking, the deals we were pursuing were more player-oriented. Like, can we find a guy that provides immediate and long-term help? And is there proper value there?
And then I want to ask you also about DeAndre's development within the
Yeah.
new culture and new system. How's that going in your perspective?
It's going well. I think we're learning each other still, and I think you've started to see some progress in that. Like, DeAndre is so talented. It took us a while to figure out how to get him the ball in the right places, how to effectively utilize him defensively, and we're still learning, and there's still a long ways to go. But I'm encouraged from what we saw in October versus what we've seen in late January, just his overall impact, his overall effectiveness, where we're getting him his touches, how we're using him defensively, how we're keeping him engaged. I like where we're headed with that. But it was complicated adjusting to DeAndre, like finding ways to get him proper touches. Mm-hmm.